Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, as the number of Bluetongue cases continues to rise, farmers are urged to vaccinate their livestock.
We think we are not yet at the peak. It's likely from the weather patterns and midge increases that the peak of disease will be in September.
More on Bluetongue later. Let's start, though, with the harvest. We're talking about it all week, and this year there is a lot to talk about. Across much of England and Wales, the heatwave and drought has meant an early harvest and poor yields. In much of Scotland, things are different. There's been hot and dry weather earlier in the summer, but now it's rain that's making things difficult, as Richard Baines has been finding out.
I'm at Strathyler Farm in Perthshire, not far from Blairgowrie, and the weather, as you can hear, is distinctly damp. The man in charge here is Adrian Ivory. Adrian, people would kill for this weather.
They would, and I'd probably kill for their weather at this time, with harvest on the doorstep ready to go, but the rain causes us several issues. If the crops start going flat because the rain's too heavy, you then get sprouting, which causes a deterioration of the quality of the grain. So we dry everything that comes off the combine. We were first cutting spring barley yesterday, and with the price of red diesel and kerosene at the moment, it is costing us approximately £10 to £11 per tonne to dry it. All the spring barley used to be sold on a contract for malting for the whisky industry, but due to world economics, tariffs, cost of living, we haven't been able to get a contract for malting barley. So all this barley is now going for feed, valued at £150 a tonne roughly, whereas malting was over £200 a tonne. In the shed here, we cut about 140 tonnes of barley yesterday. The moisture would have been averaging anywhere between 19 to 20%. So that needs dried down to about 14%. So Jack is busy loading barley into the intake pit so it can go through the dryer.
We've come now into a field of barley, which actually looks as if it's ready, except for the fact that it's soaking wet.
Even if it stopped raining today, it would take 24 hours for this to dry out to be combinable. We had a good spell of hot weather, so the yields in the winter barley were back quarter to half a tonne an acre, so any of the light ground was really badly affected, and the heavier ground not so much, but they were still way back on the last 6-year average.
So Adrian, one of the things you are lucky in is that you're not really suffering a labour shortage at the moment, and part of that is because your son Jack is working here on his work placement from college.
Yeah, he's at the Royal Agricultural University, and I'm lucky that they allowed me to have him here on his 10-week work placement.
So Jack, is he a good employer?
Yeah, no, he's very good. I'm very lucky to work for him. I'm doing carting for during the harvest, get a go on the combine, and then there's also the cattle side as well, which is daily like feeding.
A difficult season like this where the weather's been hot and then wet, it's going to be quite educational.
Oh yeah, it tells you about some of the diseases, and then you start learning about all these pests that start coming up, when you need to spray, and how much you have to look at your weather apps.
Weather apps, Adrian, they didn't have those in our day.
No, you generally looked out the window, pulled back the curtains and swore at the weather gods.
So we've come out to the edge of the farm now, and there's a sight that would gladden a lot of hearts, which is a nicely flowing small burn down here.
We're still able to irrigate potatoes, and in the rivers nothing's dried out yet, so yeah, that is a real positive. As long as the rain stops and allows us to actually combine it, we're quite hopeful of a good harvest. The biggest issue is the price. The cereal price is really pretty poor, so it is challenging.
Adrian Ivory in Perthshire there. Farmers are being strongly urged to vaccinate sheep and cattle to protect them from the rapid spread of Bluetongue. The UK's chief vet, who we'll hear from later, says vaccination is the only way to deal with the disease. There are now 130 cases. That's more than double the number this time last week. The vast majority are in England, with most in the southwest. Wales has 4 cases and there are none in Scotland or Northern Ireland. And here, cases means farms affected rather than individual animals with the disease. Bluetongue can make sheep and cattle lethargic and lame. It can cause birth defects or spontaneous abortions, and it can be fatal. Cheryl Cottle-Hunkin farms in Devon, where she's also a Liberal Democrat councillor and County Council Cabinet Member for Rural Affairs. She's written to the government urging ministers to improve testing and communication and to fund a national vaccination programme. She says the disease is devastating.
This strain that is out this year is a lot more serious. We're seeing animals just dropping down dead in the fields. I've been feeling guilty because we didn't vaccinate for it last year. Everyone's ordering in the vaccine now. It takes 3 weeks to work. We don't 100% know that we've got it, but we've had blood tests taken, but the tests take 2 weeks to come back to confirm whether it is that or not. It's really tough, so I just want to make sure that people know they're not alone.
Cheryl Cottle-Hunkin. Well, this disease is spread by midges. Originally, they were blown over from Europe, but now they and the virus survive the winter here. This year's heatwave means more midges and the virus is replicating much more quickly. It doesn't affect human health or food safety. All the cases this year have been the strain called Bluetongue 3. There is a vaccine, but as we've discussed on this programme, take-up has been low. I asked Phil Stocker, Chief Executive of the National Sheep Association, why.
The industry, the sheep industry, had been lulled into a false sense of security simply because we didn't see the level of outbreaks that were predicted last year. And then, of course, we went all the way through the late autumn and the winter and the spring where every case that was being reported was in cattle and not sheep. And then suddenly, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had this real explosion in North Devon around that Exmoor and West Somerset region. And I guess it's just caught people by surprise, really. There's been so much work going on around trying to promote vaccines, but you can also understand from a farmer's perspective that they're trying to keep costs to a minimum. They're trying to do their risk assessments. And when they looked at this, they felt the risk was fairly low at that time.
The chief vets have got together now across the country to urge farmers to vaccinate now before the breeding season. As you say, this comes at a difficult time of year. Money is very tight, partly because of the drought. New analysis we've got from the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit reckons that grass growth for the last week in July was half its 5-year average. Farmers have got a lot on. So will they vaccinate?
I think they will now. I mean, one of the reasons why farmers haven't vaccinated in the past, because they felt that this wasn't going to be the issue or the problem that was being predicted and that we saw, I suppose, in Holland and Belgium and Germany. But now, I don't think there's any doubt that people are going to be taking up the vaccine now.
How do you think the testing regime is holding up, given that there's now so much demand?
Well, I think there's several issues there, I guess. One of the problems is that on any suspected premises, the testing is only being done on up to 3 animals on any one holding. So the reported number of cases that is being publicised actually relates to the numbers of affected premises, not the number of affected animals. And I think that's one of our problems, that there will be multiple animals on those premises being affected. So the testing is definitely not happening at the speed that we would like. We're told that the Pirbright facilities are still within the capacity, but the whole supply chain, I think the vets coming out, taking samples and then posting them, by the time those samples arrive at Pirbright, there is a delay. And it would be great to think that we could speed that up a little bit.
Are farmers going to have to take a bit of control here? Because the chief vet in Wales particularly has underlined the importance of knowing the health and vaccination status of an animal you might be buying in, particularly if it's coming from an area with a lot of Bluetongue.
There's no doubt about that. There is one way for farmers to protect their stock, and that is through vaccination. And we're starting to see the uptake of vaccine because of that. I think the issue of trade as well in the sheep industry, we are approaching our main breeding sales seasons, where we're going to see breeding stock move down from some of the upland areas and northern areas, I guess, down into southern Britain. That would be a normal routine thing. But there's going to be a lot of farmers in the south of England now that are going to be really nervous about bringing naive, unprotected stock on their farms. So there's two things really. There should be nervousness from farmers in the north of England and Scotland, I would say, about moving animals from more at-risk areas. But equally, there'll be a real demand, I think, on those farmers that are in those lower risk areas to vaccinate, because I'm sure it will improve their marketing opportunities if those animals are protected.
Phil Stocker from the National Sheep Association. Well, a Bluetongue webinar organised by the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board last night attracted 1,000 people. Christine Middlemas, Chief Vet for England and the UK, told me it's all part of an industry-wide campaign.
We, with industry, so Battle Bluetongue, for example, have worked very hard together to get the messages out, working with National Beef Association, National Sheep Association, AHDB have been doing a fantastic job. Inevitably, people don't listen to all the messages that come from government, but to have others saying those same messages on board, information is out there.
Let's talk about the testing. There are some concerns about it. Firstly, the time it can take just to notify. Some people saying that has taken up to an hour. And then the time the testing system takes, so you can be a couple of weeks before you get the result back. That's too long, surely.
Yes, that is quite a long time. The time to notify really just depends on if there's a flurry of calls all at one time and so on, and we were working through that. What we found with the processing the testing, we have had a large number of samples that have not had complete information. So that is either full identification number of the animal, or indeed we've had samples that didn't come in with which premise it is. And those take up a lot of chasing. We cannot report without that information. We can't confirm disease. So I do urge those sending in samples, we need the complete information. And we are checking back through the process to make it as efficient and as effective as we possibly can do.
Does that really explain, though, the amount of time it takes? There is only one place that does this for the whole of the UK, which is Pirbright. Obviously, we're speaking in the middle of the school holidays as well. Can you increase capacity?
So we are working with Pirbright to increase capacity as much as they can, given, as you noted, school holidays and things. And we are also talking to other laboratories, Scottish Government and Welsh Government as well, about bringing other labs into the system.
But might farmers be a little bit frustrated listening to this? You say that the government's been aware that this could be an issue, it's been trying to publicise it, and yet the government, you, haven't been talking to other labs, for instance, to say, look, we might need more capacity, can you help us out?
There's a whole decision for them about what their prioritisation, do they have the right health and safety standards in that lab, for example? It's not just, oh, here's a test kit, off you go and do it. There are various health and safety and other legal standards and requirements that they must meet to be able to do it. So we have been and are working through it, but it's just not a quick process.
Let's talk about vaccination. If you're so worried about it, why doesn't the government now just foot the bill?
The vaccine is available, running at £2.50 to £3 a dose. I don't think government footing the bill makes any difference to its availability.
It is a significant outlay for farmers, though, isn't it? Particularly this year, because some are having to buy in food because of the drought. So it's a gamble, it must feel.
I don't think, in face of the advice we're giving about the disease risk, that it's much of a gamble at all.
If you vaccinate now, how long before your stock's protected?
So it's 1 jag for sheep and 2 for cattle. Immunity increases from the time of that jag and takes about 2 weeks to be fully effective.
Some might feel that it's a bit late, particularly if they're in the southwest of England.
The risk is now, but it's still worth vaccinating. We think we are not yet at the peak of the Bluetongue season, as we've seen in other years. So it started a bit earlier, but it's likely from the weather patterns and midge increases that the peak of disease will be in September. So there are still weeks to be active in vaccination and protect your herd and flock.
Christine Middlemas, the UK's chief vet. And that's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Rebecca Rooney. And Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.